very concerned. I know a lot of times we hear from people from emails or phone calls, but then so that's okay. Everyone's having conversations, so I figured I'd just wait. I don't know if anyone else has been hearing this, but I've had people come to me, but I've also seen a lot on social media where people are very concerned with their bills that continue to go up. I know they replaced a bunch of equipment, so for a while it was these rounds of people saying, why are they on my property? I didn't ask for this. I'm seeing some nods, so I know other people have seen or known about this, but I don't know about the rest on the board. So I was just wondering if there's anything that anyone else feels like we should do or say about this, because it seems to be a recurring problem where there's new equipment suddenly and then people's bills are through the roof and they don't know why, and we have no power to do anything. And I mean, there's no other company that people can go to.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor English.
I appreciate this, but I feel it's kind of, when we did the GFL, nobody would have stayed up for me when I wanted to do a GFL when they were screwing people over as far as their trash is concerned. And you're bringing this about the Dominion Power. I don't understand that. So
I did write a letter, Madam
Supervisor
Chair,
Gary.
I did write a letter as well, asking for them to look into it after the fact, which I know you knew of because they replied to both of us. I feel like that's a separate issue, which we did deal with last year to the best of our ability, I think. I'm not asking for this because that's a weird thing. I don't know. I'm not quid pro quo. Are you concerned about your constituents having to pay too much for their power or not is really the case. It's not, do we do this because we didn't do something else? That's not really the conversation.
Supervisor Panucci.
Yeah, so just to speak to the cause of the rising costs for Dominion Energy, it actually happened under a Democrat run House
turn off her mic.
delegate. It did under the Democrats in the delegation in the House of or in the General Assembly. It passed under Governor Northam, and that happened 2 years ago. Republicans did warn of the potential increases in the cost of power, and now people are starting to feel it in their pocketbooks. But so I know that I was very active in speaking out against that 2 years ago when the General Assembly was in session. I do kind of question the timing of this, right before the primaries and right before an election. The General Assembly is not, excuse me, I didn't interrupt you. The General Assembly is not in session right now, so it doesn't really make sense to send them a letter on something that they can't really impact under the legislature at this point in time. So I'm just questioning the intent of how this came before the board. I don't need a response. I just am not going to be supporting it just based on the timing of this request coming before us.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Hold on one second. Supervisor Gary, I need to leave everybody
Sure.
go that did not go yet. Supervisor Allen.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten any complaints as yet, but I'm definitely open to, if my constituents have issues, to please let me know. But it may not be something that we send now, but I think, and I haven't had conversations with Supervisor Gary, obviously I've been out of the country, but I can understand maybe why, in response a little bit to Supervisor English's comment as well, why writing a letter to the General Assembly is a little different, because Dominion policies and decisions are directly controlled by the General Assembly. And so if we are looking to enact change, we would pretty much have to start there. So I can see why you would go to the General Assembly, because they kind of dictate for them. But if it's something that we are trying to address, as Supervisor Panucci said, obviously the session is over, so if we want to get something in front of our legislative body, we would have to wait until the fall, because I believe in fall is when they start to put together their legislative bills and plans and yada, yada, yada. So I think now, might not be the right time, but in the fall, when we've maybe gotten some feedback from the summer, or because summer's approaching and the rising costs, and as winter's coming, then maybe if it becomes more of an issue, maybe it's something we can think about doing in the fall as our legislative delegation gets ready to submit stuff for the next session.
Thank you all. So this could come back.
You had told me to wait? Okay.
Sorry, go ahead,
Thank
Supervisor Gary.
Please forgive my response while Ms. Panucci was speaking. I think often it's easy to question one another's motivations. I do not have a primary right now. I simply brought this up because I knew there were concerns from my constituents that were ongoing for a while. The timing may be off, but it's still an issue. So if we don't send a letter, we bring it to our legislative committee, whatever the thing is that we need to do, then we do that. So I don't think that it needs to become a conversation about intention. You can question my intention all you want, but there are people who need help, and this is a problem. I don't think anyone would argue that it's not a problem. As was pointed out by Supervisor Allen, the General Assembly does have the ability to deal with this, and they're the only ones, and we cannot do anything. So if it's something that we just bring to our legislative committee, then that's more appropriate. That's fine. It doesn't have to be anything more than that.
Thank you.
I'm here to do my job. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Gary. What, Supervisor Bonke, last call?
Since I didn't weigh in before, I would just like to say that maybe this is something that we could bring to the Virginia Association of Counties regarding legislative priorities. And Supervisor Gary, I'm sure you know this, that, you know, Virginia Power is willing to work with people on payment plans and other things. So if some of your constituents haven't reached out to them, I'm sure they can do that.